Norm Brownstein, Jack Hyatt, and Steve Farber, so the legend of the culture in our company goes, drew straws to see whose name would be first on the door. You know the order, you know who won. They hadn't yet heard of Matthew Murrie and What If, and the What If 360 concept. But if they had, they might have been asking themselves some questions like this. What if we could be a different kind of law firm? What if we placed ourselves squarely at the intersection of business, law, and public policy? What if we partnered with the premier experts in real estate, water, gaming, and government relations throughout the region and Washington, D.C.? What if we partnered with public entities and elected officials to achieve economic development goals? And what if we prioritize community involvement and giving back as a core part of our mission as a law firm? Nearly 50 years later, I'm proud to be part of a law firm that is working through the answers to these questions every day with our 250 lawyers in 13 cities in 5 different states. We have partnered with the Economic Development Council of Colorado on the Drive, Lead, Succeed conference since its inception because we believe in its core mission of strengthening Colorado's economy by unifying the public and private organizations who care about economic development and making our state a better place to live. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce to you Matthew Murrie, who will conduct a miniature What If 360 workshop for us here this afternoon. I've never introduced a chief curiosity curator before. My college career counselor certainly never told me that was a possible choice for me. So I looked it up online to see what that job entails. This is what Yahoo said. There's no such thing. Someone is messing with you. Now, obviously that was meant in jest, but actually it's not too far off. Because I think, and I think you will see, that what Matthew Murrie is doing with the What If 360 and with the What If exercise is messing with you. He's messing with your preconceived notions of how things should be, or that they should be that way because they always have been. He messes with our status quo, and he challenges us to think differently and to think of things in new ways. So with that, I'm very excited to see what he has in store for us today. Please help me welcome Matthew Murrie.
First of all, wow, what a great introduction. And I love just how you're starting out with all of the what ifs. I think I'm done here. That's exactly it. So, but just in case,
turn me off.
I want to dive a little deeper into what if. And because we like to do things a little differently, we're actually going to start at the end and then kind of go back through the story to set us up for, again, a little mini what if experience for all of us here. So in order to start, I'd like to show a very quick clip of one of our last 360 experiences in downtown Las Vegas to just give you a little snippet of it. So you might get an idea of what it's about, but you also might start going, all right, I have no idea what this is about. So this is exactly where we'd like to start. Thank you all for coming here. First of all, the whole conference, this whole experience is really about all of you. So this is not just What If, this is What If Vegas. And more specifically, it's about what if in downtown Las Vegas. Thank you very much. So again, quick, and if you're looking at it, you may have some questions. I hope you saw the interactivity. We've been called a lot of times things like TED for doers. And if you look at that, you might go, well, there's some but people on the stage, but we saw a lot of more people pointing and doing all this stuff. So that's kind of what makes us different. That's where we collide with some of the existing systems to create something new. But I'd like to start off with a little more of the story behind What If, since this is a brand new crowd. And it's funny, when I was told about I was going to get to introduce What If and go through it, I was like, oh, great. here I get to explain it to people again. I get to see all of these faces of confusion and everything else. But I'll tell you what, listening to the speaker so far, getting that introduction and meeting and hearing some of you around already, thank you for making this a very different environment. I think there's a lot of what-ifers out there already. So instead of feeling like I'm giving yet another elevator pitch on my way up Willis Tower, I think we're going to connect in a lot better way here. But I do like stories. I was a former English professor. And I'll never forget where What If came from. It was when I saw my first TED Talk. And it really became this catalyst moment. And there are two big things I remember from that, really, only two things I remember from that TED Talk. First of all, it was something about this doctor who was curious about the brain, specifically how the brain works and the energy that goes into it. And he was wondering if people who improvise are lazy or work just as hard as people who memorize. So what this doctor did is he conveniently found a jazz musician and a concert pianist, and he had them go into a CAT scan, he measured their brain waves, and lo and behold, they're just as active, just as engaged, just as everything, just different parts of the brain. That's all I remember about it, because I couldn't get something else out of my brain. How many times does a big idea like this land in the brain of someone with the resources like a CAT scan machine? How many times does someone have these ideas but no access to resources like that? And this really hit home to me because before I was an English professor, I spent time in the Peace Corps. As an English professor, I worked primarily with international students, where some of my students literally walked up and down the Himalayan mountains just to get to my class so I could fail them. I am not that cruel. But I was surrounded by big ideas. I was surrounded by all these people and all of this energy. And it wasn't because ideas are dime a dozen and they couldn't execute. It was because there was this gap between the idea and the resources required to make it happen. And just so we're clear, resources doesn't always mean money. Resources can be things like mentorship, community, a CAT scan machine, right? But what are we doing? And then if you really go the other way, how many times do people have these resources sitting around going, man, I wish we could innovate, right? What could we do next? But how often were people with the resources and saying, we got to innovate, we got to come up with something new? How often were they going to a third grader and seeing if she had an idea that they could use? How often was the medical doctor asking an insurance salesman what he might be able to contribute? How often were educators speaking with entrepreneurs? So what could we do to create something to start colliding these worlds together? The other thing that stood out in my viewing of this first TED Talk ever, which I still can't remember the name of, was about information and how information was exchanged. You see, at the same time, I was struggling as a professor with this no cell phone policy in class. I docked letter grades, and it was frustrating, and it was terrifying. I felt for the students, but I also realized, well, maybe there's other things that we could do, right? So watching this TED Talk, it struck me that TED is fantastic because now we know there's a market for huge ideas. People will spend minutes to hours to days watching these big ideas. Not traditional entertainment reality TV show or Transformers, robots. They would spend their time with big ideas. And these were some of the most innovative ideas on the planet. But what I couldn't wrap my head around was the system or the process we were using to exchange these ideas. It's the oldest format in the book. And as a professor who was always project-based learning, student-centered learning, it didn't feel right. How do we get the audience engaged? How do we admit that because of what I refer to as our PhDs in our pockets, that the ownership of information is no longer the goal? The transferring of information is no longer the value. It's the interactivity with this information. It's the engagement with this information. It's my damn students on their cell phones. Why are they doing that? It's not that they don't care what I have, well, maybe they didn't care what I have to say. They want to interact. Where's the like button on a TED conference? Where's the share? Where's the comment? And lo and behold, I start using more and more of these elements in my class, and guess what I got rid of? The cell phone policy. Because you give them the tools, and I was no longer competing against the technology in class. You open up the platform, as we say, to let people that this isn't my idea or your idea, but let's just plant seeds of thought and then grow them together. So that's a little bit of where all of this came from. But because people keep asking me, but what is it? What is it? What is it? We're going to do it. But I've been refining the explanation to go back to just questions. All right, somebody, if you don't know what something is, you ask questions. Do you guys remember the question words? What are they? Who? What? Good, right? Who, what, when, where, why, how. But I'm going to add another one. Huh? So we're going to look through what if through the now 7 question words. So first of all, who? What ifs. And what we've been able to find in over 4 years of doing this in several dozen what if experiences, the one thing that ties these what ifers together is they seem to be misfits in transition. But they're also misfits who say, an island? I'm not going to go live on the island of misfit toys. Why should I be excluded from everybody else? What if there's value in misfits? The transition part is so many people we find, whether they're students, whether they're seniors, whether they're executives, whether they're entrepreneurs, they know there's something in their head, here's where I am, I should probably be over there, but I'm not sure. Actually, maybe I know how to get there, but I'm still here. And they say they need 3 things that what if provides them. Permission to make the leap. Pathways, so they have some idea of how to get there. And then the community, so getting there isn't quite as scary. And you can help each other continue getting to where you need to go. So part of the what if process both attracts and produces these types of misfits in transition. What? What if is an operating system at the human level with a bias toward action. Thanks for letting me geek out there for a second. It's also just the thing that helps you uncover the thing you need. And the key word here is uncover. Because we used to be called the What If Conference, and we switched it to What If 360 for a number of reasons. One is feedback we got is people saying that's not really a conference. When I go to a conference, I expect X, Y, and Z, and you deliver me, I don't even know how to describe it. The other thing is the 360 part is about adopting a holistic approach to problem solving. This is also a more feminine approach as opposed to the one-directional, more masculine approach of this is my problem, that's my solution, here's my money, help me get there, right? We limit ourselves so much when our problem solving is just a matter of here's where I am and that's where I have to go. Some of the greatest feedback we get from the clients I've worked with are the scariest emails. Because the first line, do you guys ever do that on your phone when you see part of the message but you haven't opened it yet and you're like, I don't know if I want to open this? The first line over and over is, well, you didn't help us get or solve the problem you said you were going to help us with. But then you keep reading, and it says, however, this process uncovered a dozen new problems we didn't even know existed. We've already solved 2, and we now have teams and pathways to solve 3 more, but we want you back to handle the other half dozen. That's the value of opening your eyes and looking all around you as opposed to looking at just what you think you want. So the win, this is a simple one. You can what if whenever the curious connect. I would argue you've been what-ifing all day today. and you'll continue doing it after this and later on, and hopefully beyond. Where? We've done What If from Las Vegas, Nevada to Accra, Ghana. We've been in schools, music halls, comedy clubs, libraries, boardrooms, training rooms, you know it, or you name it. And to give you just a little glimpse of how crazy this where is, I'll share a little bit about this week. Last Saturday, we were what-ifing at the Hollywood Improv with a group doing exactly the Hollywood Improv at a comedy club. Now I feel like not only am I an entrepreneur, I'm a comedian, so like bear with me. We collaborated with a group out there to bring the tools of improv to executives, entertainers, and individuals to use those same tools in their own life and their own decisions. 2 days later, I was at Berkeley Hall School working with students from first grade all the way up to 8th grade to solve global issues using the what if process. Today, I'm working with economic development, business people, nonprofits from the state of Colorado. It's all over the place, but that's what makes it special. Why? Now, this is that for all the entrepreneurs out there. Every entrepreneur needs to have some sort of big, crazy idea that drives you, whether it's true or not, whether it proves out or not, is the thing that makes you crazy. Because let's face it, if you're an entrepreneur, got to be at least a little bit crazy, right? Our big, crazy idea goes back to curiosity. When I was an English professor, looking at my students, does anybody, I'm sure you're all smart enough, I always do this as a professor too, sometimes I give away the answer before I ask the question. What do you think the single greatest determiner of student success, but then even post-school success is? Curiosity. You can take your SAT scores. You can take the GPAs. You can take where they were born, how much money they have, how many different languages they speak, and everything else. Curiosity was the one thing I saw that would push students to greatness. It got me thinking, well, what if curiosity is a natural resource? Think about that. Where do we find curiosity? Like, does anybody here have curiosity? Has anybody ever been curious in this room? Sure. Curiosity is something we all possess. It's equitable, it's accessible, it's renewable. And if this is a natural resource, what if we can convert it into an energy? And if we can convert it into an energy as something that helps us achieve or perform some sort of work, we now have a renewable resource that can not only power the planet, but guide it. So this is our big crazy why. How? We'll go through this again a little later, don't worry, but the what if process is with 8-minute questions. Typically, we do a series of 3 8-minute questions. That's why this is going to be a mini what if coming up. I'm going to deliver a short 8-minute or less what if to give you an example, then we'll go through this process. Typically, it's a series of 3 what if like questions that explore a question that either can't be answered or hasn't been answered yet. The purpose isn't to share these ideas and get on the stage going, all right, this is what I know, take notes. This isn't like, what if you just listen to everything I say? This is about 8 minutes of ideas and questions that may not have answers yet. Why 8 minutes? The short answer is because it takes about 8 minutes for the sun's light to reach the earth. We like to tap into some of that. The more straightforward answer, human attention span's about 10 minutes long, so I probably lost about a quarter of you. But through the 8-minute questions, we know that the attention span can be held for each one. And what happens after a series of these questions, we get into breakout groups, which you're looking at right now. This is what the paper and crayons are for. And we go through a 3-step process of idea dump, free-flowing discussion, and collaborative designing actions, in rapid succession of 10 minutes per, to take us from these ideas that were on stage to specific actions we can start implementing immediately. And these ideas are not from the person on the stage or an individual in the crowd. They're collaborative and they're very organic. Which leads us to the last question, right? And I bring this in here because typically I'll explain the process and I'll explain how we do it, and then we go through it and I get this question. And it's normal. But like I tell people, don't worry. It's been designed, this process, so even adults can do it. But, and I joke because I told you where we were over this week, and it's amazing the difference in age groups. When you go through this process and you tell what's going on and you give the first graders, the second graders, the crayons, boom, without hesitation, everything's taking place. You start getting older. By the time you get to, say, 4th grade or 5th grade, one student will start regulating, going, all right, I'll take notes. You guys sit over there and just tell me what to write. And then you start getting into 7th or 8th grade, and you start seeing grids in all of this structure. And then you get to adults, and you see blank stares. And I tell people, there's no wrong way to do this process. If you do something differently, you're not breaking it, you're adding to it. But it's funny because usually we go through these rounds, and the second time the adults are just as crazy as the kindergartners. It's just that first one because of this. And this is what I'm going to explore in my what if talk. Because what if this is okay? What if it's okay that you don't know what to expect, right? What if it's okay to occasionally shrug your shoulders and just say, huh? So, what if leads to aha? And if that timer is correct, I land this plane under 8 minutes. We'll have exactly 30 minutes to go through the process, and all will be beautiful. So what if leads to aha? I'm going to give you a series of what ifs here. So in other words, instead of giving you maybe a very traditional what if, I'm going to give you lots of little snippets of what could be what if talks. And when I was exploring this idea of the why we ask it's usually about expectations, right? And when we say we're maybe a little uncomfortable. Wait, I don't know. But what if we've been conditioned to find comfort in our expectations? What if it's scary not to know what's next or what to expect? But at the same time, what if your expectations are that box you're being told to get out of? What if your expectations are the status quo you're being told and actually telling other people you're challenging? What if your expectations are everything that gets in the way when you're told to innovate and you struggle? So what if we can go off into the unknown to find the true value beyond what we expect? It always drives me crazy when people, let's get outside the box. Let's get outside the box. All right, let's go. Now we're here. And everybody's like, whoa. Right? It's like, it's pretty, has anybody seen outside the box? I don't know what's out there, but it's fun, right? It's like, that's what we see. So let's create an environment. Let's create a system that not only allows people to get outside the box, but maybe they don't even realize that they're out of it. What if we are all still kids? If you think about it, if you really get honest with yourself, how different are you today than when you were a kid? Now, you may not be able to be as open about your vulnerability. You may not be able to admit the things that you don't know as much. But at the same time, right, what if we are all kids? And think about kids for a second. What if they hold the secrets to where, or the tools for us to use to get to where we need to go? Particularly in terms of learning and innovation and being driven by curiosity. I was joking around with someone just the other day about toddlers and learning and babies, right? And it occurred to me, you know, two of probably the most difficult things to do in your lifetime is to learn how to talk and learn how to walk. And then I was thinking, great idea, I'm going to open a talking and walking school, right? But then you realize they don't go to class, they don't take tests on speaking, on learning how to walk, or in this. They're just curious. They're driven. There's a clear purpose. It's not for a grade. It's not to do anything. It's because I want to get over there. It's because my emotions are so pent up on me right now, crying just ain't going to do it, right? But look how they do it. They fail, they get back up. They fail, they get back up. They try, they try. They don't go, well, it's 7 o'clock, I got this for 1 hour, then I'm switching to a different period. And it's fluid. They look at others walking, right? And go, oh, that's how you do it. They don't compete. They collaborate. They use curiosity. And the other great things about kids is when dad says no, what do? Go ask mom, right? So what if we can employ more of these in our daily lives, in our professional lives, in our community? What if work was fun? And I don't mean this just, all right, who's HR in this room? We need more casual Fridays, but actually we need more, dress-up Fridays, right? This doesn't just mean like, how can we have more office pools and all of this? I want to throw this back on all the employees. And not just employees, but just everybody who goes to work, whether you're working for someone else or for yourself. You're spending most of your adult life doing this. What if it were fun instead of dreading? And if anyone in this room has secrets to this, what if you share, right? What if you share? And I like this in particular because when you think of the ripple effects of something like this, it's not just about work or your job or your office. It ripples across. Has anybody ever been upset or angry driving to work? Right? I don't know you, but you cut me off or I cut you off and something happens and it has nothing to do with this, but like, you see, it can have these effects beyond what we see. So what if work was fun? Now let's combine them a little bit all together and say, what if your office or your community or your place of work was also your sandbox? Think about the characteristics of a sandbox, right? It's like, man, I got my good toys, they're in the house, yeah? The sandbox, yeah, there's toys in it, and yeah, I play in it, but it's outside, it's a little off from the house, it's different, yeah? That's where I get dirty. That's where I don't just play, I construct, I engineer. Other people from the neighborhood can come in and go fluidly. There might be a different set of toys there or tools. But how can we apply some of these concepts to our day-to-day life? What if we all created a little sandbox in our lives that was just a little off, with special tools and toys that we could experiment, we could innovate, we could have fun now and then, before or after we return to our typical place of work or toy box. So this is where we're going to wrap up the what if question part and go into the breakout session. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to review the what if flow part again, and then as we're going through it, I'll guide you and I'll make sure there's some slides up here to give you some ideas of what we're going to do. But the goal right now is in your groups, you're going to start building on everything that you heard, not just today in what I've shared with you, but the other things that you've heard from the conversations you've had in the hallways, from the previous speakers and the panels, maybe something you heard last night during the reception. Input can come from anywhere. But what we're going to do is go through this 3-step process, and I'll keep us on the 10-minute, 10-minute, 10 minutes. So you're going to start getting annoyed. It's like, oh no, he's going to talk again, right? Just so we can shift it along. But the what if flow starts with the idea dump. And what this means is we all have paper and crayons in front of us. And for the first 10 minutes, your task is to write down draw, and express anything that's rolling around in your head that resonates with you from anything that happened today. Again, there's no wrong way to do this. You can write sentences, words, draw pictures, anything. And you can talk freely while you're doing this. Doesn't mean like, hey, we're going to discuss later, we can't now. This is, again, no wrong way to do it. After this step, we're going to move to the discussion phase. And discuss is where everybody in your group starts to bring your own perspectives in. So forget what this crazy guy on the stage is saying. You know, my background in this, he's full of it because of that. Or he said something there that reminded me of a time before when this happened. This is when you're the speaker, and feel free to bring in your own perspectives and backgrounds, but also point and look at what was done during the idea dump. Ask, why did you draw that picture? I wrote the same word. Oh, you did this and you did that. There's a connection here. Let's explain. The last step is design. And during this step, the goal is to connect these ideas, identify actions, and then create sequential action steps. So the goal is at the end of this process, each group is going to have a set of actions that they can take going forward based on everything that was discussed throughout the entire day and in your groups. And then beyond that, you're going to be challenged to take it into the evening and into tomorrow's session and then beyond this conference so that you can continue following these pathways created by this community that is now giving you permission to explore the unexpected. So with that, I will go back to the idea dump. And for the next 10 minutes, please put all of your ideas on the papers in front of you. If you have questions, I'll be floating around. Feel free to ask. Okay, if I got everybody's attention just quickly, keep drawing, keep writing if you want to, but just so you know, so we're on proper track for time, we are now officially into the discuss. So you can continue drawing or writing, but if you haven't already, make sure you're talking about what you're writing. Okay, if I can have everybody's, sorry, you are doing such an amazing job. You're doing an amazing job almost to the point you're going to spoil me that I don't need to explain this to people ever again. But then again, I keep joking. I love Colorado. I love the people here in Colorado. I'm from Missouri. I'm from the Midwest. And thank you. Well, you haven't heard anything yet. I love not just Colorado, the whole West, because you guys are pioneers. This kind of thinking, this kind of thought seems to come much more natural to you. I joke around all the time. My ancestors in the Midwest, at one point, we were all heading from east to west. And at some point, a group of people stopped and go, you know what? My feet kind of hurt, right? You know what? I heard a story that if you go far enough, there's mountains. If you go far enough, there's even earthquakes, right? And some of the people, like, it gets kind of gnarly up in those mountains. You know, you might be looking at, you know, doner kebabs. I don't know. And here in Missouri, the Midwest, yeah, there's no gold. There's no, you know, majestic sun, you know, like mountains and beaches. But we're cool right here. And I'll tell you something. Be proud that you're from Colorado. And even if you're not from Colorado, be proud that you have that pioneering spirit, that whether it's in you or your genes, that there's something in you that says, you know what, we'll cross those mountains. They can have the tornadoes, right? So thank you for that. The last step is design. Now, this is the trickiest part because you're actually challenged to come up with something, right? So you're going to start connecting these ideas, identifying actions, and while you can come up with personal stuff, like a lot of times people might open a journal or something on the side and going, all right, that's all cool, guys, but I got some insight. I'm going to change my life right now. Cool. Do that. But I'd also like for you to work together as a group to collaborate and communicate with one set of action steps that we'll share at the end of this and also throughout the day and everything else. We'll collect these papers, and time permitting, we'll let a couple groups share some of the action steps, like, hey, we were talking about this, we thought we could do X, Y, and Z to make that happen, or some suggestions, right? But then beyond that, take it to the hallways, take it to dinner, take it to this evening, take it to tomorrow, okay? So for the last 10 minutes, let's work together to come up with, say, 3 to 5 sequential action steps based on everything you've been doing so far. Okay, if I can have everybody's attention real quickly. I have a confession to make. I thought that would grab people's attention a lot more. I got to come up with something a little racier than, I don't know, I thought a confession would get you. All right, good. So I do have a confession, is that last one really wasn't 10 minutes. We're cutting it just a little short because I want to make sure we have some of this remaining time, about 3 minutes, to hear from 1 or 2 groups if there's anything in particular they would like to share. Now, typically we ask that you share these action steps, but you're not stuck with that. If there's just an idea or something that came out of your group discussion you would like to share now, I would like to turn the microphone over to a person or two to share. Otherwise, I want to make sure I encourage everybody to continue sharing throughout the evening. All right, we are ready.
Thanks, Clark. All right, so I'm not sure this is action items, but it's about how do we relate today back to economic development, and we think we think it needs to be community engagement, short 30-second sound bites that are designed well, that connect the dots on an otherwise complicated subject, because we just haven't been communicating with the people in our communities as opposed to the businesses. But it's not action items.
No, those are, I would call those action items as well. Those, very good job, very good job. Nice. Is there another? I think we probably have. I agree. Student groups. Would anybody like to share? We have a request. Yeah, let's hear from the students. Who among us? Anything, whatever resonated, whatever steps or thoughts came out of this process you'd like to share with the group.
I think he's a really good one.
Okay.
So we kind of just came up with a bunch of different things, and a lot of us drew animals because we weren't really here the last couple of days, so we didn't really have anything businessy to talk about. But we just kind of talked about animals and had competitions with our animals and dog and what? A two-legged dog. And yeah.
Thank you. What?
Okay, so I drew the Colorado flag, and then I had everyone give me a word that they thought like described it. So from our table. So on here we have like sunsets and mountains, clouds, mile high, 420, just stuff like that. So yeah, came together and did that.
Okay, and just so you know, there are a lot of other words on here. But But I also do think, as far as cross-generationally speaking, it is important, and thank you for all the teachers and the educators who brought the students out here. This is vitally important, I think, for not just our economies, but our communities, that there are more experiences where younger and older can come together. Perhaps, I guess, the only way I could, or one of the ways I could have improved on this would be that instead of purely student groups, to make sure these students are sprinkled throughout all of the different groups. And when we put on a What If event, we typically have randomized groups, and we intentionally curate the crowd so that we have everyone from teenagers to senior citizens, and that they are in random groups to increase this interactivity. But again, this conversation, this is just the beginning. This is just the kick in the pants, we say. The rest of this What If experience will continue on throughout the rest of the day and beyond. So I encourage not just everybody to go ask the students, but the students. Make sure you're mingling and interacting and getting to know all the people here. So thank you all very much. I'm going to wrap it up right there. And you've been great. Thanks.